Mr. Secretary, this is Colonel Vega. I need immediate authorization to take operational control of this situation. Granted. What do you need? Phoenix looked at the tactical displays showing the mission aircraft under fire, then at Weaver, who was watching her with a mixture of awe and concern. Sir, I need to get my people home. And then I need to have a very direct conversation with General Harrington about the cost of personal vendettas in military operations. For the first time in 5 years, Colonel Diana Phoenix Vega was about to step out of the shadows and reclaim her true identity. The question was whether it would be in time to save the mission and the people she had been forced to abandon. The Mission Control Center had transformed into controlled chaos. Multiple screens showed aircraft positions, damage assessments, and emergency protocols simultaneously. General Harrington stood at the central tactical display, his usual commanding presence strained as reports flooded in from the embattled squadron. Bravo team is taking heavy fire from positions not shown in intelligence reports, the flight controller announced, his voice tight with concern. They're requesting immediate extraction. Negative, Harrington responded firmly. The mission objective has not been achieved. All aircraft maintain current positions and continue the operation. Captain Ellis's voice crackled through the COMM system, stress evident despite his training. Control, this is Bravo 2. The defensive systems here are unlike anything we briefed. They're using some kind of adaptive targeting that's adjusting to our countermeasures in real time. Lieutenant Commander Walsh, who had been monitoring the technical aspects of the mission, looked up from her station with obvious alarm. General, those defensive capabilities suggest they have access to our own electronic warfare protocols. This is exactly what I warned about in the briefing. Harrington's jaw tightened. Commander, focus on your assigned duties. Sir, if they've reverse-engineered our quantum encryption methods, they can predict our tactical responses. Our people are flying into a trap that's learning how to kill them more efficiently every second. Before Harrington could respond, the mission control doors burst open. Phoenix strode in wearing full flight gear, followed closely by Colonel Weaver. The room fell silent as every person present turned to stare at the pilot who had been dismissed just hours earlier. General Harrington, Phoenix said, her voice carrying new authority. I'm resuming command of this operation. Harrington's face flushed with anger. Major, you were relieved of duty. Security, escort this officer from the command center. That won't be necessary, came a voice from the main communication screen. The display flickered, then resolved into the image of Secretary of Defense Harrison, seated in what was clearly the Pentagon's Crisis Management Center. Several uniformed officers and civilians were visible behind him, their expressions grave. The effect on the room was immediate and profound. Officers who had been focused on their individual tasks now stood at attention, recognizing the unprecedented nature of direct communication from the Secretary of Defense during an active operation. General Harrington, the Secretary began without preamble. You are hereby relieved of operational command of Mission Nightfall. Colonel Vega will assume immediate tactical control. The silence in the room was deafening. Harrington stared at the screen, his face cycling through shock, confusion, and anger. Sir, there must be some mistake. My records show no Colonel Vega assigned to this command. Your records are incomplete, General. The Secretary's expression remained impassive. Operation Chess Protocol was established 5 years ago under Colonel Diana Vega, before her lateral transfer and rank adjustment for security purposes. She created the encryption algorithm your target is attempting to replicate. The revelation sent visible shock waves through the room. Captain Rodriguez's voice came through the comm system at that moment. Control, we're getting torn apart out here. Whatever intelligence we had on their capabilities was completely wrong. Phoenix stepped forward, her bearing now unmistakably that of a senior officer. "Patch me through to all aircraft immediately," she ordered, her voice carrying absolute authority. The communications officer looked to Harrington, who stood frozen, then to Colonel Weaver, who nodded sharply. "You're connected, Colonel. All Nightfall aircraft. This is Checkmate Prime," Phoenix announced, using a call sign none of them had heard before. "You are engaging a facility equipped with quantum adaptive defensive systems derived from chess protocol architecture. Your current tactical approach is feeding information to their targeting systems, making them more effective with each passing moment." Ellis's voice came through immediately. "Phoenix? What the hell is going on?" "Captain Ellis, I need you to execute Emergency Protocol 7 Alpha immediately. Break off your current attack vectors and establish a holding pattern at grid reference Delta 77. "Colonel," Rodriguez interrupted, confusion evident in his voice. "Those aren't standard emergency protocols. Captain Rodriguez, you're about to receive tactical downloads that will explain the situation. For now, trust me and execute the maneuver. Your lives depend on it." Phoenix turned to the tactical systems operator. "Download chess protocol defensive countermeasures to all aircraft immediately. Authorization code, Checkmate 77 Alpha." "Ma'am, I don't have any files under that authorization code," the operator responded. "You do now." Phoenix moved to his station and entered a complex series of commands that caused multiple classified files to appear on his screen. "These are the countermeasures for quantum adaptive systems. Upload them to all aircraft immediately." As the technical staff worked frantically to implement Phoenix's orders, General Harrington found his voice. "This is impossible. You're telling me that the pilot I've been overseeing for 5 years is actually a colonel with clearance levels above my own?" Secretary Harrison addressed him directly from the screen. "General Harrington, Colonel Vega voluntarily accepted demotion and deep cover assignment following the successful implementation of chess protocol 5 years ago. Her identity was classified at the highest levels for both national security and personal safety reasons." Harrington's face went white as the implications began to sink in. "The operation in Kabul. My son, your son, Lieutenant Connor Harrington, died protecting Colonel Vega while she completed the final implementation of chess protocol," the secretary continued relentlessly. "It was a mission so classified that even you, as his father, could not be told the true nature of what he died protecting." The atmosphere in the room had transformed completely. Officers who moments before had been focused on mission parameters now exchanged stunned glances, re-evaluating everything they thought they knew about the quiet, competent pilot who had served alongside them for 5 years. Phoenix was coordinating the tactical response with calm efficiency, directing aircraft movements and system countermeasures with the expertise of someone who had designed the very systems they were fighting against. "Bravo team, you're targeting. Systems should now show adaptive paths marked in blue. Follow those vectors exactly. Deviation will trigger defensive responses." "Confirmed, Checkmate Prime," Rodriguez responded, his voice now carrying new respect. "Systems are showing blue pathways." "How did you ... Never mind. Executing now." Lieutenant Commander Walsh approached Phoenix cautiously. "Colonel, the quantum signatures I identified in the briefing ... were accurate, Commander. This facility has successfully reverse-engineered approximately 60% of chess protocol architecture. Enough to create adaptive defenses, but not enough to understand the built-in vulnerabilities I incorporated into the original design." "You built vulnerabilities into your own encryption system?" Phoenix allowed herself a slight smile. "Commander, Rule 1 of defensive architecture. Always build a backdoor that only you know about. We're about to use it." On the tactical display, The aircraft positions began to shift as pilots executed Phoenix's countermeasures. The reported incoming fire decreased dramatically as the squadron's electronic signatures were masked by the countermeasures. "All aircraft, this is Checkmate Prime," Phoenix announced. "Prepare for final assault phase. You are about to see defensive systems that have been stalking you suddenly go blind. When that happens, you'll have exactly 4 minutes to complete the mission before backup systems activate." Alice's voice came through with obvious relief. "Phoenix, Colonel, whoever you are, I don't know how you're doing this, but it's working." Phoenix looked directly at General Harrington, her eyes steady and professional. "General, with your permission, I'd like to bring my people home." Harrington, still reeling from the revelations of the past few minutes, could only nod silently. For the first time in his military career, he found himself completely out of his depth, watching an officer he had systematically undermined for years demonstrate capabilities that clearly exceeded his own understanding. The mission that had been failing catastrophically was now proceeding with surgical precision, guided by the expertise of someone who had designed the very systems they were fighting against. But for Phoenix, the personal cost was becoming clear. 5 years of carefully maintained anonymity were gone. The cover that had protected her from enemies who would kill for her knowledge had been blown in a matter of minutes. The only question now was whether saving her squadron would be worth the price she would inevitably have to pay. 20 minutes later, the mission had transformed from near disaster to textbook execution. Phoenix stood at the tactical display, coordinating the operation with the kind of seamless authority that left no doubt about her true capabilities. The aircraft positions showed a perfectly orchestrated assault pattern that was systematically dismantling the facility's defenses. "Data extraction complete," Rodriguez reported, his voice steady now that he understood the true nature of their opponent. "Chess protocol elements secured. No casualties." A spontaneous cheer erupted in the Mission Control Center, quickly subdued by professional decorum, but revealing the tension that had been building throughout the operation. On the secure video link, even the Secretary of Defense permitted himself a small smile of satisfaction. "Well executed, Colonel," Secretary Harrison said, using Phoenix's true rank without hesitation. "Bring your team home." "Yes, sir," Phoenix responded simply. As the squadron began their return journey, Phoenix became aware of the profound silence surrounding General Harrington. The man who had commanded the room with absolute authority just an hour earlier now stood apart, clearly struggling to process the magnitude of what had been revealed. Colonel Weaver approached Phoenix discreetly. "Colonel, the Secretary wants a secure debrief in 30 minutes. Also," he lowered his voice, "base security is concerned about operational security. Word of what happened here is going to spread." Phoenix nodded, understanding the implications. "The cover story? They're working on it. Something about a classified consultation bringing you back into the mission." Weaver paused. "But Phoenix, Colonel, this changes everything, doesn't it?" Before she could answer, Lieutenant Commander Walsh approached with a tablet displaying technical readouts. "Colonel, the intelligence we gathered from the facility. It's worse than we thought." Phoenix studied the data, her expression growing increasingly serious. They didn't just reverse engineer 60% of chess protocol. They were building a delivery system. Delivery system for what? For injecting compromised code into our own network. Phoenix looked up, her face grave. If this facility had become operational, they could have turned our own encryption system into a weapon against us. Every classified communication, every secure channel, potentially compromised. The implications hit Walsh immediately. My God, they could have listened to everything. Troop movements, intelligence operations, diplomatic communications. Which means, Phoenix continued, that someone with access to highly classified U.S. military technology has been feeding them information. This wasn't just theft. This was betrayal from within. The weight of that statement settled over the room like a heavy blanket. Phoenix turned to address the Secretary of Defense directly through the video link. "Sir, I need immediate access to the intelligence files regarding who had knowledge of this mission's true parameters. We have a security breach at the highest levels." "Granted, Colonel. Those files are being transmitted to your secure terminal now." The Secretary paused. "Colonel, given the sensitivity of this situation and the obvious security concerns, I'm activating Protocol 7. You'll have full investigative authority." General Harrington finally found his voice. "Sir, what exactly is Protocol 7? Secretary Harrison's expression grew stern. "General, Protocol 7 grants Colonel Vega authority to investigate potential breaches of chess protocol security. That authority supersedes normal command structure and extends to any personnel who may have had access to related intelligence." The implications were clear, and Harrington's face paled as he realized he was likely to be a subject of that investigation. Phoenix moved to the secure terminal and began reviewing the transmitted files. Her expression grew increasingly troubled. As she read, "Colonel Weaver," she said without looking up, "I need to review the personnel files of everyone who had advanced knowledge of this mission. I also need communication logs for the past 72 hours for all senior staff." "That includes my communications," Harrington said stiffly. Phoenix looked at him directly for the first time since taking control of the operation. "Yes, General. It does." Ellis's voice crackled through the comm system. "Control, this is Bravo 2. We're 30 minutes out from base. Request priority landing clearance." "Granted, Bravo 2, Phoenix responded. "All aircraft proceed directly to secure hangars upon landing. No personnel are to discuss mission details until formal debrief." As the squadron approached the base, Phoenix noticed something troubling in the intelligence files. "Commander Walsh, look at this." She highlighted a section of the security assessment. The facility's defensive systems were updated 48 hours ago. Someone told them we were coming. Walsh studied the data, her face growing grave. "Colonel, that update included specific countermeasures for several tactical approaches that were only finalized in yesterday's planning session. Which means our leak isn't just someone with general access to chess protocol information. It's someone who was in the detailed mission planning meetings." Phoenix turned to face the room, her voice carrying unmistakable authority. "As of this moment, this base is under security lockdown. No one leaves until we identify how classified mission parameters were compromised." Colonel Weaver nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "I'll coordinate with base security immediately." General Harrington stepped forward, his voice carefully controlled. "Colonel, I want it on record that I object to this investigation. The implication that senior staff at this base might be involved in espionage is exactly what the evidence suggests." "General," Phoenix interrupted, "and given that you've spent 5 years systematically undermining the one person who could have prevented this security breach, I find your objections less than compelling." The direct accusation hung in the air like an electrical charge. For a moment, it seemed as though Harrington might lose his composure entirely. Instead, he drew himself up to his full height. "Colonel, whatever personal issues you believe exist between us, they do not justify." "Personal issues?" Phoenix's voice remained calm, but there was steel beneath it. "General, your personal issues nearly cost us this mission and potentially compromised national security. Your son died protecting chess protocol, and instead of honoring that sacrifice, you spent 5 years punishing the person he died to protect." The room fell completely silent. Even the background hum of electronic equipment seemed muted as the confrontation everyone had sensed building finally came into the open. "My son died because of mistakes made in that operation," Harrington said, his voice tight with controlled emotion. "Your son died because he chose to stand between enemy fire and the colonel, who was completing the most important intelligence operation of the decade, Phoenix replied. He understood what chess protocol meant to national security. Apparently, his father does not. Secretary Harrison's voice cut through the tension from the video link. General Harrington, Colonel Vega, this discussion is not appropriate for an open briefing room. General, report to the Pentagon tomorrow at 0800 for a full debrief on your command decisions regarding this operation. Harrington straightened, recognizing a summons that could very well end his career. Yes, sir. Colonel Vega, you'll remain at Bram Air Base until the security investigation is complete. I'm granting you temporary command authority over all aspects of this investigation. As the secretary signed off, Phoenix found herself in the unprecedented position of having authority over the man who had made her life difficult for 5 years. But instead of satisfaction, she felt only the weight of responsibility. The aircraft were landing now, and her people were safe. But the larger question remained: who had betrayed chess protocol, and why? And more importantly, what other operations might have been compromised by the same security breach? Phoenix looked at the tactical display showing the successful mission results, then at the intelligence files revealing the scope of the betrayal. The fight was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. Commander Walsh, she said, I need you to run a complete analysis of everyone who had access to chess protocol intelligence in the past year. Cross-reference that with any unusual financial activity, travel patterns, or communication anomalies. Yes, ma'am. What about General Harrington? Phoenix glanced at the man who had been her antagonist for 5 years, now standing isolated and clearly shaken by the day's revelations. General Harrington will be part of the investigation, just like everyone else. But I don't think he's our leak. She paused, studying the intelligence files again. Our problem is someone much more subtle than that. As the last aircraft touched down and base security began implementing lockdown procedures, Phoenix realized that exposing her true identity had been the easy part. Now came the real challenge: finding a traitor who had been operating under their noses for months, possibly years, and doing it before they could disappear or cause even more damage to national security. The secure debriefing room at Bram Air Base had been transformed into an impromptu investigation center. Phoenix sat at the head of a conference table surrounded by computer terminals, classified files, and communication logs spanning the past 6 months. Commander Walsh worked at one station, analyzing digital forensics, while Colonel Weaver coordinated with Pentagon security from another. It had been 18 hours since the mission's successful completion, and Phoenix had barely slept. The scope of the security breach was becoming clearer with each piece of evidence they uncovered. Colonel, Walsh said, looking up from her screen with concern, I found something significant. Someone accessed the chess protocol master files 3 times in the past month using valid credentials. Phoenix moved to look over Walsh's shoulder. Show me. The access came from a Pentagon terminal, but here's the problem. The user credentials belonged to someone who died 2 years ago. Colonel Marcus Reed, former NSA liaison. Someone's been using a dead man's access codes, Phoenix murmured. That takes sophisticated knowledge of our security systems. Colonel Weaver joined them, holding a tablet with communication logs. It gets worse. I've been analyzing the timing of these accesses against mission planning schedules. Each time someone accessed Reed's account, it was within 24 hours of a major planning session for a classified operation. Phoenix felt a chill of recognition. Show me the dates. As Weaver displayed the timeline, a pattern emerged that made Phoenix's blood run cold. The unauthorized accesses corresponded not just to Operation Nightfall, but to 3 other high-security missions over the past year. Operations she had provided consultation on without knowing it, through her technical expertise being requested by various commands. They've been tracking my involvement, she realized. Someone knows about my connection to chess protocol and has been using that knowledge to identify which operations are most critical. A knock at the door interrupted their analysis. Captain. Ellis entered, still in his flight suit from the extended debrief session. Colonel, I thought you should know. There's been talk among the pilots. Word is getting out about what really happened yesterday, about who you really are. Phoenix nodded grimly. How bad is it? Base rumor mill is in overdrive. Some people are calling you a hero for saving the mission. Others are questioning why you've been operating under false pretenses for 5 years. Ellis paused. And? General Harrington. He's been asking a lot of questions about personnel files and security clearances. Before Phoenix could respond, her secure phone rang. The caller ID showed Pentagon Emergency Line. Colonel Vega. Colonel, this is General Thompson, Joint Chiefs. We have a situation. 3 hours ago, someone attempted to access the primary chess protocol servers at Fort Meade using the same compromised credentials you've identified. Phoenix felt her heart rate spike. Were they successful? Partially. They triggered our intrusion detection systems, but not before downloading approximately 15% of the protocol documentation. Colonel, we need to assume that chess protocol is now fundamentally compromised. The implications hit Phoenix like a physical blow. The encryption system that protected the most sensitive military communications in the world. The system she had designed and sacrificed her career to protect had been breached. Sir, what are your orders? We're implementing Emergency Protocol Alpha. All chess-protected communications are being suspended, pending development of new encryption methods. Colonel, we need you back at the Pentagon immediately. Phoenix looked around the room at Walsh, Weaver, and Ellis, people who had become her colleagues and friends over 5 years of careful anonymity. Sir, I'm in the middle of investigating how this breach occurred. We're close to identifying. Colonel, the investigation is being transferred to FBI counterintelligence. Your priority is helping us develop replacement encryption before our enemies fully exploit what they've stolen. As Phoenix ended the call, she realized that her 5-year cover assignment was truly over. Not just exposed, but rendered irrelevant by the very breach she had been trying to prevent. Bad news? Weaver asked, though her expression suggested he already knew. Chess protocol has been compromised. I'm being recalled to the Pentagon. Phoenix looked at the investigation materials spread across the table. All of this. It might be too late. Commander Walsh spoke up. Colonel, before you go, there's something else you need to see. She brought up a new screen showing financial records. I found the money trail. The display showed a series of payments to offshore accounts, traced back through multiple shell companies. The amounts were significant but not enormous. Exactly the kind of pattern that suggested someone was being paid for information rather than living extravagantly. The payments started 18 months ago, Walsh explained. Small amounts at first, then increasing as the information became more valuable. But here's the interesting part. The payments stopped 3 weeks ago. Stopped? Phoenix studied the financial data. Why would they stop paying a valuable asset? Because, Ellis said quietly, they got what they came for. They used the information to build their facility, and now they don't need the source anymore. Phoenix felt pieces of the puzzle clicking into place. Or because the source is about to be exposed and they needed to cut ties. She turned to Weaver. Colonel, I need you to continue this investigation after I leave. Focus on anyone who had access to chess protocol information and whose behavior has changed in the past month. Someone is going to try to disappear very soon. Understood. What about General Harrington? Phoenix considered this. Keep monitoring him, but I don't think he's our primary suspect. His animosity toward me was too public, too obvious. Our real problem is someone who's been operating quietly, someone with legitimate access who doesn't attract attention. As Phoenix began gathering her materials to prepare for the flight to Washington, she realized that the betrayal went deeper than just stolen encryption protocols. Someone had been systematically identifying and compromising the most sensitive operations in the U.S. military, using her own expertise as a guide to what was most important. The mission she had just saved was only the beginning. The real challenge would be stopping a spy who understood the system well enough to exploit it from within, and who was now desperate enough to be extremely dangerous. Her secure phone buzzed with flight details. In 3 hours, she would be back at the Pentagon, working to rebuild what had been destroyed. But part of her would remain at Bram Air Base, hoping that the investigation she was leaving behind would find the traitor before they could disappear forever. The fight for justice was just beginning, but Phoenix had the uncomfortable feeling that she was already several steps behind an enemy who had been planning this for much longer than anyone realized. The Pentagon's Crisis Management Center buzzed with controlled urgency as Phoenix entered the secure briefing room. It had been 72 hours since she'd left Bram Air Base, and the scope of the chess protocol breach had expanded beyond anyone's worst fears. Multiple ongoing operations had been compromised, and intelligence agencies across the government were scrambling to assess the damage. Secretary of Defense Harrison stood at the head of a room filled with generals, intelligence directors, and civilian defense contractors. Phoenix recognized several faces from her original chess protocol development team, people she hadn't seen since accepting her cover assignment 5 years earlier. Colonel Vega, the secretary began as she took her seat. Before we begin the technical briefing on protocol replacement, I need to inform you of a significant development in the security investigation. Phoenix straightened, sensing the gravity in his tone. FBI counterintelligence, working with the investigation team you established at Bram Air Base, has identified our security breach. He gestured to a large display screen. The traitor has been apprehended. The screen showed a photograph that made Phoenix's blood run cold. Deputy Director Linda Foster, a civilian intelligence analyst who had worked peripherally on chess protocol development. Phoenix remembered her as competent, but unremarkable, exactly the kind of person who could operate undetected for years. Foster had access to chess protocol documentation through her role in intelligence assessment, the secretary continued. She used that access to identify high-value targets for foreign intelligence services. We estimate she's been selling information for over 2 years. Director Hayes from the FBI stepped forward. Colonel Vega, your analysis at Bram Air Base was crucial to breaking this case. Foster's financial patterns and access logs matched your investigative framework perfectly. Phoenix felt a mixture of relief and anger. Where was she apprehended? Attempting to board a flight to a non-extradition country. She had clearly been planning her exit strategy for some time. Hayes brought up additional screens showing Foster's activities. She was also responsible for the timing of the attack on your mission. She provided real-time updates on your squadron's approach vectors. The revelation that someone had been actively trying to get her people killed sent a surge of rage through Phoenix, but she maintained her composure. What's her current status? In federal custody. Full confession in exchange for protection from the foreign intelligence services she was working for. The secretary's expression was grim. Colonel, she specifically targeted operations involving your expertise. She knew that identifying missions where you provided consultation would lead her to the most valuable intelligence. Phoenix realized the full scope of what had been happening. She used me as an unwitting guide to what was most important to national security. Precisely. Which brings us to the larger issue. Secretary Harrison activated another display showing global intelligence assessments. The damage from chess protocol's compromise extends far beyond what we initially realized. We need a complete replacement system, and we need it fast. How? Fast? Phoenix asked, though she suspected she wouldn't like the answer. 6 weeks. Intelligence suggests our adversaries are already attempting to exploit what they've stolen. Every day we operate without secure quantum encryption puts ongoing operations at risk. Phoenix studied the timeline displayed on the screen. Developing. Chess Protocol originally had taken 18 months with a full team. Creating a replacement system in 6 weeks would require a completely different approach. Sir, developing new quantum encryption in that time frame would require ... would require the original architect working with unlimited resources and complete authority, the secretary finished. Colonel, you're being promoted to Brigadier General, effective immediately. You'll have whatever you need. The promotion was expected, but Phoenix barely registered it. Her mind was already working through the technical challenges ahead. I'll need access to the team that worked on the original protocol. Full clearance for at least 20 specialists. And ... She paused, realizing something that made her request even more complex. Sir, I'll need General Harrington as my military liaison. The room fell silent. Several officers exchanged surprised glances, clearly not expecting Phoenix to request the involvement of the man who had made her life difficult for 5 years. General Harrington? Secretary Harrison's eyebrows rose. May I ask why? Phoenix chose her words carefully. Sir, General Harrington's son died protecting Chess Protocol. He has a personal investment in ensuring its replacement is successful. More importantly, he understands operational security in ways that civilian contractors don't. She didn't mention the other reason, that she wanted Harrington to understand exactly what his son had died protecting, and why her apparent demotion had been a necessary sacrifice rather than a punishment. Very well. General Harrington will be assigned to your development team. The secretary made a note on his tablet. General Vega, you'll have complete authority over this project. The only constraint is time. As the briefing concluded and personnel began filing out to implement the massive project ahead, Phoenix found herself alone with the Secretary of Defense. General, he said quietly, I want you to know that your service over the past 5 years hasn't gone unnoticed. Accepting demotion and cover assignment to protect Chess Protocol was above and beyond the call of duty. Phoenix nodded, but her thoughts were already on the work ahead. Sir, the mission always comes first. Indeed it does. Secretary Harrison studied her for a moment. General, when this project is complete, you'll have your choice of assignments. After what you've sacrificed, you've earned the right to shape your own career path. For the first time in days, Phoenix allowed herself to consider the future beyond the immediate crisis. 5 years of anonymity had cost her advancement opportunities, personal relationships, and the recognition that normally came with her level of contribution to national security. But it had also given her something invaluable, a clear understanding of what really mattered in military service. Not rank or recognition, but the quiet satisfaction of protecting something larger than herself. Thank you, sir. Right now, I just want to make sure our people have the tools they need to stay safe. As Phoenix left the Pentagon briefing room, she realized that the confrontation with her past was finally complete. The truth about Chess Protocol, about her sacrifice, and about General Harrington's misplaced blame had all been revealed. Now came the hardest part, proving that the 5 years of apparent setback had actually prepared her for the most important challenge of her career, the mission that would define not just her future, but the security of every military operation for years to come. 6 weeks later, Phoenix, now Brigadier General Vega, stood in the same Pentagon briefing room where the crisis had begun. The walls were covered with technical diagrams. Computer screens displayed complex algorithms, and the exhausted but satisfied faces of her development team reflected the intensity of their achievement. Quantum Protocol Alpha is fully operational, she announced to the assembled military leadership and intelligence directors. All testing phases complete, security certifications approved, and deployment ready across all military communication networks. Secretary Harrison leaned forward with obvious relief. General, walk us through the improvements over the original chess protocol. Phoenix activated the main display, showing side-by-side comparisons of the encryption systems. Alpha incorporates adaptive quantum keys that change continuously, making the stolen chess protocol information completely obsolete. Additionally, we've built in multiple redundant security layers and real-time intrusion detection that makes Foster-style breaches impossible. General Thompson from the Joint Chiefs nodded approvingly. Deployment timeline? 48 hours. For critical systems, 2 weeks for complete network integration. Phoenix looked around the room. As of tonight, every sensitive military communication will be protected by encryption that's mathematically impossible to break with current technology. A spontaneous round of applause erupted from the assembled officers. Phoenix acknowledged it with a brief nod, then her eyes found General Harrington, who had been quietly observing from the back of the room. General Harrington, she said, would you present the operational security assessment? Harrington stepped forward, his bearing noticeably different from the man who had dismissed her from the mission 6 weeks earlier. The weeks of working together on the project had forced him to confront not just his misconceptions about Phoenix, but the true nature of what his son had died protecting. Ladies and gentlemen, Harrington began, General Vega has created a system that doesn't just protect our communications, it actively defends them. The operational security protocol she's developed will prevent the kind of systematic exploitation we experienced with chess protocol. After the briefing concluded and the room began to empty, Harrington approached Phoenix privately. General, he said, his voice carrying a weight of genuine respect, I owe you more than an apology. I owe you an acknowledgement of what you've accomplished and what my son would think of the officer you've proven yourself to be. Phoenix met his gaze steadily. Connor was protecting the mission, General. He understood that the work was more important than any individual recognition or personal cost. Including yours, Harrington said quietly. 5 years of accepting my misplaced blame, watching your career stagnate, enduring treatment that was completely unwarranted, all to protect something I didn't even understand. The mission always comes first, Phoenix replied simply. Harrington extended his hand. General, it would be an honor to serve under your command in any future capacity. As they shook hands, Phoenix realized that the cycle of misunderstanding and conflict that had defined their relationship for 5 years had finally come to an end. Not through confrontation or revenge, but through shared work toward a common goal that transcended personal grievances. Later that evening, Phoenix sat alone in her Pentagon office, reviewing deployment schedules for Quantum Protocol Alpha. Her desk held a framed photograph, the same one from her locker at Bram Air Base, but now displayed openly. Connor Harrington's face was no longer a painful reminder of conflict, but a symbol of the sacrifice that made her work meaningful. Captain Ellis's voice came through her secure phone. General, this is unofficial, but I wanted you to know the squadron at Bram is naming their new ready room the Phoenix Center. Colonel Weaver thought you should know. Phoenix smiled at the gesture. Tell them I'm honored, Captain. How's everyone adjusting to the new assignment rotations? Good, ma'am. Though I have to say, base operations feel different without you. People actually seem to miss having someone around who could solve impossible problems. After ending the call, Phoenix walked to her office window overlooking the Potomac River. In the distance, she could see aircraft approaching Reagan National Airport, their navigation lights tracing paths across the darkening sky. 5 years ago, she had been Colonel Diana Vega, architect of the most important encryption system in military history. Then she had become Major Phoenix Vega, an anonymous pilot protecting her creation through deliberate obscurity. Now she was Brigadier General Vega again, but with a deeper understanding of leadership that came from serving without recognition. The sacrifice had been worth it, not just for the preservation of chess protocol, but for what the experience had taught her about real service, the kind that happened in quiet moments, without cameras or ceremonies, when people chose to do what was right, regardless of personal cost. A secure computer chimed with an incoming message from Secretary Harrison. General Vega, your next assignment is waiting for your input. You have earned the right to choose your path forward. What would serve the country best? Phoenix considered the question as she watched the last light fade from the Washington sky. She could return to research and development, leading cutting-edge programs from the security of classified laboratories. She could take a command position, leading troops who knew her reputation and accomplishments. She could accept a Pentagon staff position, influencing policy at the highest levels. But as she thought about Captain Ellis and the squadron at Bram Air Base, about the pilots who had trusted her leadership during the mission that started this journey, Phoenix realized what she wanted most. She typed her response. Sir, I request assignment as commander of the Air Force Special Operations Wing. Our people deserve leaders who understand that the mission always comes first, whether anyone is watching or not. As she sent the message, Phoenix felt a deep sense of completion. The general who had refused her flight orders had become her strongest advocate. The mission that had exposed her cover had led to her most important accomplishment. The sacrifice that had cost her recognition had taught her the true meaning of service. In the reflection of her office window, she could see both who she had been and who she had become. Major Phoenix Vega, the quiet pilot who did her job without complaint. Brigadier General Diana Vega, the architect of military encryption systems. And most importantly, simply Phoenix, the officer who understood that real victory wasn't about personal vindication, but about protecting the people who depended on her leadership. The mission would always come first. But now, finally, she could serve openly with the full authority to protect not just encryption systems, but the people who used them. Justice had been served not through revenge or confrontation, but through the quiet satisfaction of duty fulfilled and recognition earned through excellence, rather than demanded through entitlement. As she gathered her materials to head home, Phoenix knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, new missions, and new opportunities to serve. But tonight, for the first time in 5 years, she could rest knowing that her true identity and her cover identity had finally become the same person. An officer who served with distinction, regardless of rank, recognition, or circumstance. The mission always came first. And the mission was never truly complete. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and become a part of our Everyday Life Stories community. Where are you watching from? Drop a comment below. We love hearing from our amazing viewers around the world.